Tonight, police laid charges against the other driver in last week's deadly crash in Brampton.
I really hope this individual will end up behind bars for a very long time.
The charges coming on the same day the family killed in the crash is laid to rest. Plus,
we have to rethink, in some cases, whether police represent the right community response at all.
Mayor Tory unveils his plan for reforming the Toronto Police amid protests and calls for action. And the city is set to open up more daycare centers, why some critics say it's not a win for parents. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A 20-year-old man from Caledon is facing multiple charges tonight in connection with that deadly crash in Brampton last week that killed Carolina Casullo and her 3 young children. Today, they were laid to rest. Talia Ricci has more.
4 white caskets entered a church in Brampton today alongside a grief-stricken father.
Carolina, Clara, Lily, and Mila were Michael's girls. They were his entire world.
Many unable to hold back their tears.
I'm going to miss CARE's calls to talk about Christmas gifts and planning in October. I'm going to miss Clara's smile when she would say, "Hi, Zia." I'm going to miss trying to steal hugs and kisses from Lily. I'm going to miss the pictures that CARE would send me of Mimi stuffing her face with food because she knew those would make my day.
The driver at the center of the horrific crash, 20-year-old Brady Robertson, has been charged with 4 counts of dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. Last Thursday, police say Robertson was traveling eastbound on Countryside Road in a blue Infiniti when it collided with the family's Volkswagen, which then hit a light pole. Robertson then collided head-on with a Honda that was stopped westbound on Countryside Road at the red light. Robertson has also been charged in connection to this incident 2 days earlier, when the Infiniti rolled off the road and sped off when people tried to help. The OPP saw the speeding vehicle shortly after, but said it was too dangerous to pursue. Meanwhile, Brampton's mayor says he hopes the punishment fits the crime.
I hope the sentence will be commensurate with the crime. This is murder. 4 innocent lives were taken for reckless driving, and I really hope this individual will end up behind bars for a very long time.
Brown says he believes there also will be further charges. Robertson is set to appear in court next on July 23rd, and the SIU investigation is still ongoing. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Brampton.
A cyclist is in critical condition tonight after a collision involving 2 other vehicles. This happened at the intersection of Bloor Street and Running Brook Drive in Mississauga just after 7 o'clock. Now, the female cyclist was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries. One of the drivers was also taken to hospital. Both drivers remained at the scene. Roads in the area are closed for the investigation. We're seeing video tonight of a shootout that took place just over 2 weeks ago outside a memorial for Toronto Raptor Dario Jenkins, a.k.a. Houdini. Now, he was shot and killed on a downtown sidewalk last month. Now, the video from June 9th shows a large group gathered outside in a parking lot near Highway 401 in the Jane and Wilson area. Someone in a dark-colored vehicle pulls over on the highway and starts shooting at the crowd. People in the crowd returned fire.
During this time period of approximately 45 seconds that's elapsed, numerous vehicles driving westbound on Highway 401 past this location, as gunfire is being directed towards the highway by persons from the rear of the restaurant. At the scene, police located in excess of 60 shell casings.
2 men who were shot and injured in the shootout took themselves to hospital and were later arrested and charged. And police have issued arrest warrants for 2 more men, 24-year-old Terrell Burke Whitaker of Brampton and 18-year-old Javonte Johnson of Pickering. And amid protests and calls for action, Mayor Tory has unveiled his plan for reforming the Toronto Police. Part of it, a new non-police response team for calls that do not involve weapons or violence. Greg Ross has more on the mayor's proposal and reaction tonight.
Systemic racism continues to be a real issue here in Toronto, and there is much more all of us can do and must do to confront it and to eliminate it.
While the mayor acknowledges there's a problem in the city, he wasn't willing to go so far as to commit to reducing the $1.1 billion police budget.
We have to rethink, in some cases, whether police represent the right community response at all. I strongly support this re-examination because I think we need to ask and answer these questions now.
The mayor says he is committed to detasking police by creating a non-police response team for calls that don't involve weapons or violence, increased funding of programs that support Indigenous, Black and marginalized communities, and more support for those dealing with mental health issues. To fund this, he's asking the Auditor General to look at where money can be saved in the police budget. Cyrus Marcus Ware is a core team member with Black Lives Matter in Toronto.
I think what we're seeing is a continuation of not enough.
Black Lives Matter has been calling for the city to defund police by 50%.
We're not seeing a really clear direction of what it is that they're planning on doing, and this is part of a strategy to try to push this off until people forget about it or until it's out of the news cycle.
Samar Bull is a U of T medical student and co-founder of the group Doctors for Defunding Police. He pointed to the death of 62-year-old Ijaz Chowdhury, shot by Peel Police in Mississauga Sunday, as a perfect example of a situation where a non-police response may have been more effective.
We want people who are from these communities who actually care about us, who know that these are our neighbors, your cousin, your family. That is how we get out of this situation. And other cities have done this.
The head of the Toronto Police Union said in some ways today's announcement is demonizing officers, but wasn't entirely opposed to investigating the possibility of detasking.
I think that's a good idea. We should always look at the best practices. And we've had a discussion going on in this province for the last 10 years about what is core policing. And again, we in the police community are in the association that I represent, are not opposed to that. We should look at the best practices.
This is not the only police reform motion that will go before City Council. Next week, a motion put forward by Councillor Josh Matlow will be voted on. It calls for a 10% reduction in police funding. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A blockade continued today at the intersection of Goreway and Morningstar in Mississauga. It's all over the death of Ijaz Chowdhury, the 62-year-old who was fatally shot by Peel Police during a call for a mental health crisis.
We need peace, and the only people that is creating disturbance in the community is the actions of the police. We're gonna be here until we get justice.
Dozens of friends, family, and community members have been protesting against the police for the past week. Family members of Chowdhury are calling for the officers who shot and killed him to be fired. He is the third Canadian in the last month to be killed after police carried out what they called a wellness check. With cases of police violence against people of color under renewed scrutiny right now, we are expecting a decision tomorrow in the high-profile Dafonte Miller case in the GTA. Off-duty Toronto police officer Michael Theriault and his brother are both charged with aggravated assault and obstruction of justice in a case dating back nearly 4 years. Dafonte Miller was beaten so severely he lost an eye. Lorenda Redekop has more.
For a case that's garnered so much attention, the courthouse will be empty. The judge's decision will come over YouTube, given the pandemic, a publication ban on broadcasting it. People will still gather outside to show support for Dafonte Miller, just like they did during the trial.
Irrespective of what the case and the verdict is tomorrow, it's not going to stop the pursuit of justice for Dafonte and his family and other Black community members who have either lost family members.
Miller's injuries were horrific. His eye had to be removed. Initially, he was the one charged with theft. That was dropped months later after his lawyer alerted the police watchdog. Instead, off-duty Toronto police officer Michael Theriault and his younger brother Christian were charged. They say it was self-defense, that they caught Miller and his friend breaking into their parents' truck. They chased him and he had a pipe. Here's part of Christian Theriault's witness statement.
I heard it hitting my brother, definitely, and then running in, I got hit right over the head on it because he was just swinging it at us.
He reported minor injuries. Michael Theriault didn't report any. In court, Michael Theriault said he repeatedly punched Miller as hard as he could, fearing for his life and his brother's, but never used the pipe. In its final written submissions to the judge, the defense wrote that this case is not about race and not about excessive use of force. It says the narratives advanced by Miller at trial and through his lawyer bear no resemblance to what actually happened. And also said neither the complainant, the defendants, nor the community are entitled to a particular result.
Black Lives Matter!
Since the trial, the issues of anti-black racism and police brutality have erupted following the killing of George Floyd in the United States. This lawyer expects the judge will mention that different context.
Although judges are essentially making a decision about the specific case that is before them, what they're also doing is speaking to why the law is what it is. And so justice is not just done, but it must be seen to be done.
Miller's supporters say this case has interest around the world, and with a judgment being streamed online, may even be watched by people outside Canada. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
With more businesses reopening, the City of Toronto is responding by opening more daycare centres. 11 of the city's 47 early learning and childcare centres will reopen Monday. But with big restrictions on capacity, some councillors worry the move is letting down many parents. Taylor Simmons has that story.
Childcare in the city definitely won't look like this come Monday. The city is opening just a handful of locations, limiting the number of kids and adults to 10 people per room, or about 30% capacity. Each will follow strict health and safety protocols, but Councillor Joe Cressy says those protocols are making childcare even more inaccessible.
But what we've seen now is that with new provincial measures to make sure that kids can go to childcare safely, we now have lost nearly 56,000 childcare spaces.
Cressy himself says he and his wife are on several waiting lists for this fall.
We know that far too often it's women who are forced to choose between re-entering the workforce or staying at home. And so the bottom line is this: there will be no economic recovery without accessible childcare.
That's why he's joining with another councillor calling for a national childcare strategy to not only open more spots, but make them more affordable.
Having childcare spaces that nobody can afford isn't exactly going to help out working parents.
Today, Mayor John Tory also asked the other levels of government to step up.
If you want people to productively be able to return to work as they want to do, and if you want that childcare to be equitable, then there is going to have to be a greater contribution from those two governments.
City Council is set to debate the motion on Monday. The rest of the city's childcare centres are set to gradually reopen over the next few months. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
And with Toronto now in stage 2 of reopening, the city is beefing up its network of bike lanes. 2 downtown active TO cycling network connections will be installed before the weekend, according to the city. The mayor tweeting out a photo of a stretch of new separated bike lanes along University between Adelaide and Bloor. By Friday, separated bike lanes spanning 1.5 kilometers will be nearly completed along Bloor Street between Avenue and Sherbourne. After the break, some Raptors fans never got over Vince Carter's departure from Toronto. Well, now he's made it official. He's departing again, this time from his professional career. Plus,
while the cooler temperatures we've had over the last couple of days are on their way out, heat and humidity is on the way in. Your full forecast after the break.
former Toronto Raptors superstar Vince Carter announced today he has officially retired from professional basketball.
It's in the weight room, so he's stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
Oh, it's over, ladies and gentlemen.
Carter was selected 5th overall by Golden State and then traded to Toronto at the 1998 NBA draft. Now, he was nicknamed half man, half amazing for his high-flying dunks and capped it off by winning the 2000 NBA Slam Dunk Contest. Carter saw the most success of his career in his first 7 years with the Raptors before they traded the 8-time All-Star to New Jersey. Now, he was public enemy #1 in Toronto for a long time after he left, but Fans have since warmed up to the man who is seen as one of the big reasons basketball is big in Canada. His 22 seasons are the most in NBA history, and he became the first man to play in 4 different decades. Carter retires at the age of 43. And Vancouver is out of the running as a hub city for the NHL's return. The Canucks issued a statement late tonight confirming the city would not be hosting the games once the season returns. Now, Toronto is still in the mix, along with Edmonton, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Let's check in on the weather forecast with meteorologist Nick Cernkovich. So, Nick, I'm glad to see yesterday's cool temperatures were just a blip. Things are warming.
Yeah, they certainly are, Mike. Actually, just in time for the weekend, we had a little bit of a dip in the temperatures, but more notably, the dip in the humidity. And all of that is changing coming up over the next 24 hours or so. So that is, of course, part of our headlines. So we move through the next couple of days and actually into next week as well. The humidity is returning. We've got a little bit of rain and thunderstorms to deal with, but that's going to be through tomorrow night, so not really affecting your daytime too much. And sunny days ahead. In fact, you'll see as we get to the long-range forecast, really, there is lots of sunshine in the forecast. 26 degrees is what we hit today with the Humidex. It was only up to about 27, 28 is what it felt like, but that's all changing through tomorrow and in fact all the way through the next 5 days as we start to pump in some more in the way of humidity as well. So generally clear skies through tonight, clear skies through tomorrow morning. Start to see a little bit in the way of increase in cloud cover through the afternoon. We're watching a system down through southwestern Ontario by tomorrow evening, and that's going to bring with it some rain and thunderstorms, particular down that way. For us around the Golden Horseshoe here, we're looking at closer to about the midnight hour tomorrow, this line of rain and thunderstorms to move through, and then it kind of clears out for Saturday. Lingering showers on the backside of this Saturday morning. Otherwise, a mix of sun and cloud to perhaps mostly cloudy skies toward the later part of the day on Saturday. Sunday, though, becomes the better day in the weekend. In terms of rainfall accumulations, broadly speaking, for the GTA and Golden Horseshoe, 10, 15 millimeters of rain. Heavier amounts down to sort of southwestern Ontario. Could be upwards to about 20 or 30 millimeters of rain. In terms of thunderstorm potential, scattered thunderstorms across the region. There is a slight chance for stronger thunderstorms, especially down in southwestern Ontario for tomorrow. Otherwise, we're looking at just what you might call garden variety thunderstorms across the Golden Horseshoe. For the forecast for tonight, temperatures down to about 16, 17 degrees in southwestern Ontario. That comes with clearing sky cover if you're not already seeing it. 30 for tomorrow in Humidex, closer to about 33 down in the Windsor area. Average highs for this time of year closer to about 27 degrees. So we are above average just about everywhere across the board. Golden Horseshoe, same story, temperatures around 16, 17 degrees, partly cloudy skies to basically clear skies. And then tomorrow, mainly clear skies to a mix of sun and cloud, highs of about 27, 28 degrees across the region. That carries through till tomorrow, but tomorrow night into Saturday, we've got the rain and then lots of sunshine and basically sunny and 29 with a Humidex of 33 from Sunday, Monday through till Tuesday as well. Mike.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
After the break, a Mississauga pastor takes a leap of faith.
I'm not just supposed to be a pastor. I'm supposed to be a woman.
It was one of the scariest yet bravest things she's ever done. A pastor has shared her truth with her congregation. I'm Angelina King in Mississauga. I'll have more on her story and how her message is helping others. That's coming up.
A pastor in Mississauga has taken a big leap of faith. In an online sermon, June Joplin says she did one of the scariest things in her life. She spoke her truth. And her message is already helping others at Lorne Park Baptist Church to feel more accepted and loved. Angelina King has her story.
God has a way of guiding you to the moment when you can't do anything else but speak your big, risky truth, no matter how much trouble it gets you into.
It started as a sermon about embracing truth. It ended with a pastor sharing hers.
That I'm not just supposed to be a pastor. I'm supposed to be a woman. Hi, friends. Hi, family. My name is Junia. You can call me June. I'm a transgender woman and my pronouns are she and her.
June Joplin says she questioned her gender identity for most of her life, but she could never connect it with anything concrete until recently.
Just saying that out loud to another human being for the first time ever is just, it's scary.
2 years ago, she began coming out, first to her spouse and a few close friends, eventually telling her children and other family. They've been a major source of support, including when it came to telling her congregation at Lorne Park Baptist Church.
I was shaking and anxious, but as the moment got closer, I felt a sense of kind of calm and a sense of determination that I was about to say things that just could not go unsaid.
And after a moment with her eldest son.
He just held me and I held him and I cried, and it was such a tender moment. But just, you know, there's a sense of release. There's a sense of being kind of liberated from a burden.
She knew she was taking a big risk. So far, she's received an outpouring of support.
I was just crying the whole time. And I think I've watched it maybe 2 or 3 more times.
For 19-year-old Jasmine Smith, who's navigating her own journey of coming out as gay, the sermon was inspiring.
Kind of lost touch with faith in the last few years. This is something that I think I really needed to hear. So many people, just like, even just in the media or elsewhere, who make me question everything and if who I am is okay. And if my pastor can be part of this community, then surely I can too.
Joplin gets emotional when she talks about LGBTQ youth who don't feel accepted, especially by their church, and the statistics about how that can correlate with suicidal thoughts. She hopes her message reaches those who need it.
I believe in a God who calls you a beloved daughter, even when your parents insist that you'll always be their son.
The church says it's expressed love for Joplin and her identity as a woman, but whether she remains the lead pastor is still up in the air.
If I never work another day in the church again for the rest of my life, like, I'll know that, like, I've done what I was called to do.
Creating an accepting space and a sense of hope. Angelina King, CBC News, Mississauga.
And that's our newscast for tonight. Well, it's a big interview on The Current tomorrow morning to tell you about. Matt Galloway speaks with John Bolton, Donald Trump's former national security advisor. He's out, of course, with a tell-all book this week. He speaks to Matt about why he didn't speak out during the impeachment hearings. That's tomorrow on CBC Radio starting around 9:30. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.